Hello everyone, good afternoon. I hope you guys are all staying safe and are well. Uh, we have a very interesting panel today. This topic was suggested by one of our participants only who wanted to understand the value and the value adds of B2B players that we could arrange for them. So without any further ado, over to you, Sankit. Please take the session forward.
Thanks, Rupti. Hello, fellowpreneurs and hustlers. I'm Sanket S., founder at Volume Up and core team lead of TiE Food Network. Volume Up is a platform that optimizes bottom line for spare capacity owners within the food industry and facilitates top of the pyramid brands to scale with negligible OPEX and CAPEX. So, most of us here are, I think, going through a roller coaster ride personally, emotionally, and on the work front. There are usually two ways to deal with it. One is get anxious and worked up about everything around us. And the other one, take a pause, breathe and accept that there are certain external factors that we cannot tweak and think what changes can you get in your business to make it function better and make it more seamless. So today with us, we have three such terrific men who can probably help make your business life easy for especially entrepreneurs in the food and the FMCG space. Let me quickly introduce them. Ashwin is a serial entrepreneur, CEO of Equinox Labs, the hugest food safety lab in India, and he definitely himself is the tallest figure in the food safety standards in India. Abhinav is the founder of Cranberry Foods, one of the most beautiful B2B bakery setups I've seen. Not your usual run-of-the-mill bakery, as he says, and counts some of the best five-star properties and air-flight catering companies as his clients, apart from some of the hugest QSR and cafe chains. Abhishek Bayana is one of the smartest cookies I've come across. My go-to guy for a brainstorming session, a visionary in his own way, and is currently founding Bikri, a Y Combinator funded startup. And he's going to show us how he can make a small, big food FMCG brand go online in 30 seconds and talk directly to your consumer. So some house rules for today. This isn't a panel discussion. Each of the speakers will speak for about 15 minutes. And at the end of it, you'll know how they could play such a pivotal role in our lives and how their journey could just inspire us to wake up and do better than yesterday. If okay with all of us, I'll begin with Abhishek, followed by Abhinav, and then last but not the least, the firebrand Ashwin. We'll have audience Q&A towards the end of the session. So, Abhishek, if I may start with you.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, you're pretty clear, man.
So for some reason, I'm unable to start my video.
I'll
have to do some troubleshooting. I'm sorry.
Probably, do you want to just log out and log in again?
Sure, I'll do that.
No. Can you please try now?
Yeah, there we go.
Perfect.
Works. Thank you, guys. Sorry, I dropped out. Internet hanging up. But yeah, good afternoon, everyone. These are tough times, and I hope you all are vaccinated or close to being vaccinated and everyone's safe at home. Thank you, Sanket, for that introduction. And happy to talk about where we are at and how restaurateurs and in general business people can participate in the direct to customer trend. In India, the core thesis is that you can just listing your business on Amazon or one of the aggregators is you being online. But the world has thoroughly changed since then, and we will show you using Bikri how we can build long-lasting customer relationships that are direct with your customers. Sorry, Sanket, that's just a brief, but I didn't hear your question. Where do we start here?
So you can maybe if you want to jump, you can. I had a couple of questions to ask you before you wanted to jump into the presentation. But if you want, you can go ahead with the presentation and then I'll come back and ask you questions or whatever.
No, we can start with your questions. Otherwise, I can jump into the presentation.
Okay. So I think it'll be nice to actually for the audience to hear a little bit about yourself before we jump into the presentation. So you are heir to one of the I've always wanted to ask you this actually. So you're heir to one of the legendary catering companies in Noida, and some legacy restaurants in Delhi are owned by your family. You still decided to choose a more difficult path and start on your own. So please tell us a little bit about yourself and your thought process before starting up.
Got it. No, fair. So I grew up actually around restaurants and even a construction business. And this ended up like, after my education at Purdue, where I studied economics, I was working for a private equity fund. But I always had that creative urge to start something of my own, and especially seeing the family, always being, creating new things from scratch and seeing how that works was definitely that added to the fire. And so in 2012, I moved from the US and got involved with the startup ecosystem in India more. And at that moment, like, it was a big learning phase where we built apps for like, amazing brands like Porsche, Ducati. We built like apps for Game of Thrones. I remember season 4, and that was a very good process. Like I loved doing that. Um, which eventually led to me combining like what I'd learned growing up, like around the restaurant trade. And I met my co-founder of my previous company while doing those things, and we ended up starting Strawberry POS. And Strawberry POS is a full-blown operational tool for a restaurant, which typically it combines and gives them data at one place. It becomes their source of truth per se. And restaurateurs in India, were using different tools to manage different parts of their operation. So that sort of one tool combined it at one place, and which eventually led us to my current venture, which is Bikri, where we learned deeply, like how restaurants fail, how restaurants survive, what ends up like growing restaurants, what ends up growing other small businesses like those.
Sure. And congratulations, by the way, on getting funded by Y Combinator and then topping it up with more marquee investors. So I think without wasting time, I would prefer if you would take us through the journey of Bikri and how it can be beneficial for our industry. So I'll leave the floor to you to take us through it.
Sure. So I'll just share my screen here, and
Sure.
we'll go through a quick 5-minute presentation, and happy to like deep dive into questions after that. But
Sure.
can you guys see my screen?
Yeah, go ahead.
Awesome. So the main idea with Bikri was to help the entrepreneurial ecosystem go online and sort of own their relationships with their customers. It's a very fast way to get your business online and running. And if you have a business idea right now and you want to sell something, you can literally do that in 5 minutes. You'll be able to send out a link and people will be able to buy your product. In case of restaurants, we are at a very critical time where especially with the lockdown, where most of your sale has shifted online, and that online sale typically depends on a third party who's providing you with orders, whether it's Swiggy, whether it's Zomato, whether it's Dunzo, whether it's any third party that you are typically using. So with Bikri, we've been able to successfully get this out to more than 10,000 brands. Some of the top brands, especially in and around Delhi, use this. And they use this to basically accept orders using WhatsApp and all their social media handles. The way this works is that we've built a really cool catalog creator for restaurants, and they can, and even other businesses like grocery stores and chemists, but specifically for the purpose of this particular conversation, if you have a menu, you can literally scan your menu and we'll give you a digital menu in 30 minutes. And you can then send those links directly to your customers to start accepting online orders. And not only that, we help you accept mobile payments. We help you even deliver those orders using our logistics fleets that we have done using collaborations. So the end result of this being that you end up owning your own customers. You have a chance now at saving at the big commissions that these aggregators are charging. And not only that, like in our interviews with our restaurateurs, it was mostly determined that they were not only using these aggregators to accept orders, but also use the logistics fleet. So this, with our tie-ups with different local logistics partners, whether it's Dunzo, whether it is Shadowfax, you're now empowered to own the complete journey. And not only that, when you get refunds and you're not able to at the end satisfy your customers because the food didn't reach on time or the packaging was amiss, any of those things, you have a direct line, and that helps you build long-term relationships. So how we do this, you download the Bikri app, and we also have a support line if you want to like use that to add your catalog. We quickly power your Instagram, WhatsApp shop, a link that you can share everywhere. For your in-store options, we give you a complete contactless ordering payment mode where a user comes in, scans it at your particular location on different tables, and the order goes inside the billing counters and the kitchen, where it's not just like, you know, scan to view a menu, but you can scan to view and place an order and do the entire digital payment directly to the kitchen. So how does this change the customer journey? Currently, if your customers are coming in from aggregators, restaurants typically work the ones, so the restaurants that are long-standing are typically working on repeat customers. They have 60 to 70% repeat rates. And those are that's where they want to save on their biggest commissions, because the customer would order from that particular brand any which ways. And to do that, like, we give the restaurant a complete set of tooling that they can manage on an app, and to the end customer, beautiful looking websites that they can open up from WhatsApp or through Facebook of that particular brand. Apart from all of this, this is a constantly like being built out, where we are now closely even monitoring marketing. So from our customers, we learned that they also need help in reaching out to these brands, and even the content creation that's required. Sometimes it's stickers that they want to put on orders that are coming in so that customers order directly, or sometimes it's WhatsApp forwards that they need help with. So Bikri is an all-in-one platform that takes care of your entire customer journey to build long-lasting customer relationships. And yeah, it's free. You can go and download it off the Google Play Store right now. And that's for the Bikri demo, Sanket. Thank you.
That's terrific, Abhishek. I think this is going to be a game changer for our industry. So I think you mentioned it in your last slide, but I think, you know, if you could like elaborate that part a little bit more. So I mean, you know, like you rightly said, all of us are harrowed by the heavy commissions that we pay. So and I think you're trying to solve a major pain point. So my question is, what collective steps will the restaurants and companies like yourself will have to take to get the customer to shift to direct ordering platforms? So, I mean, if you could elaborate a little more on the steps that you've planned around this?
No, that's
in terms
an excellent question. So, you know, it's widely known fact, and even I've operated in the hyper-local commerce trade, and specifically restaurants, for the past 8 years. 2 out of 3 fail within the first year or two. And the ones that survive, if you look into the data there, most of them have higher than 70% repeat customer rates. And those are the customers you want to bring on board directly to your website, directly ordering to you through various means. And to do so, like, first set is you want to have your own digital catalog. But how do you reach out to them? Like, what are the tricks of the trade to even get them on board? So we've seen this is completely based on how motivated a particular brand is to do this at scale. But people put in stickers when delivery orders come in, and people are now started to literally, like, you know, completely change their packaging to incentivize users that, hey, order direct, get 25% off, here's a link. Hey, order direct, and, like, you know, tell your friends about it, and both of you get 25% off. They are like, I think the social media game of a lot of these brands is, if you see Instagram or these social media channels now, they're lit. Like, you know, they're running giveaways, they're incentivizing users to sort of like, even as an industry, NRI and other such organizations have started to come together to promote the idea where customers should be, the idea of supporting a local business is when you order direct through them. So I believe it's an industry trend which is just about to start with, and people are learning more about as they get, like, earlier, you know, the commissions from these aggregators were 4%, 5%, then they went to 10%, 12%, it went to 18, 22, 24, and now it's at a point where either you can pay them or you can run your own business. So people are now starting to actively search for solutions that sort of fulfill that gap. And there are lots of creative ways to tell your customers, how to order direct. Starts with building your own phone book.
Definitely interesting. So, thanks Abhishek for taking us through Bikri. Please stay with us. What we'll do is we'll have the audience Q&A towards the end of the session, once and for all, with all the speakers.
Sure.
That's okay with you.
No, for sure. Thanks.
So, Abhinav, so moving to you, Abhinav, are you there?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So, Abhinav, please tell us a little bit about yourself. So, why did you choose the B2B path to enter the food industry rather than the B2C path?
Hello everyone. I would like to start first by saying thank you to the TiE network as well as Sanket for hosting this amazing session. It was some really nice input that I got from Abhishek, and it's a really good problem that he's solving at this point of time, because everyone is trying to find out ways, how can they deal directly with the customers without having the likes of Swiggy and Zomato in picture. So that was a good session. So about me, basically, my name is Abhinav, and I'm the founder and the CEO of this company, Cranberry Foods Pvt Ltd. Before getting on the journey of entrepreneurship, I did my master's in hospitality, and then I took 2 years of experience by working in the Ritz-Carlton Hotel under several roles. And since entrepreneurship was something that I always wanted to do, I came back to India, and that's how Cranberry Foods was born in the year 2015.
Sure. So, what are the kind of products you're covering at the moment, and some of the clients, the kind of clients that you cater to? I mean, do you
Right.
and also do you plan to enter the B2C space yourself anytime soon?
Right. So basically, Sanket, I don't come from a family of traditional business. So I've had to build everything from scratch since I started this. The thought process was always consistent in terms of bringing the volumes, bringing the economies of scale, and hitting a certain milestone in terms of revenue before venturing out and starting the B2C side of the business. As all of us are aware, like these days, to build up a retail brand, you need deep pockets in terms of having to spend it on marketing. So the idea was always to have a big enough base in terms of both volume as well as revenue. Now that I have built a credible base with a B2B business now, and I am also certainly confident about the kind of products that we have been dealing with over the past 6 years, and find a sense of comfort in terms of the SOP that we have set in the factory. So I think that was the right idea for us, right time, in fact, for us to move to the D2C market specifically. In fact, my wife Pragya had been insisting to, explore this D2C model since Jan 2020, even before the lockdown happened. So basically, we already have a huge FSSAI certified facility in place. So the idea was, how can we try to solve a problem wherein we reach out to the customers directly? So we have our own website called www.cranberryfoods.shop, wherein anyone in Mumbai can just log into this particular website, have a similar experience like a Flipkart or an Amazon, choose their products, and they have delivered next day.
Oh, okay, interesting. So generally, what I have seen in our industry is that the smaller players usually do not go to a contract manufacturing facility thinking that their recipe will get leaked, or they just take it for granted that the rates might just be too high. So why didn't you spend some couple of minutes on this and break such myths for our foodpreneurs?
So it's actually quite unfortunate, the whole pandemic scene has been really harsh, especially upon the F&B industry per se. And the smaller players have faced this burnt even more. Everyone from small to big businesses have reevaluated their whole business model in the past 1 year. And basically, if I have to give my 2 cents on the whole contract manufacturing for small players, one of them would be to ensure that they get down to minimal waste, or in fact zero waste, by moving into frozen products. They can also focus, by contract manufacturing, they can focus more on marketing side of the business instead of being involved in the nitty-gritty of business, challenging firefighting with the issues in the kitchen or with the staff. So one gets more time to deal with the marketing challenges. Then by contract manufacturing, what also can happen is like you have a very minimal set of work in your backend. You don't need a skilled guy or a chef to prepare your food. So any Tom, Dick, and Harry can come, and we can hire them and can train them in a day or two, and he's good to go. So basically, that also plays to an advantage. Then one of the key to contract manufacturing is product consistency. Since these factories tend to have more automation than one kitchen would have, a restaurant would have. So all the products becomes consistent. So that takes up the huge challenge that everyone faces these days. Like every brand or every restaurant or every food chain wants a consistent product for their customer to have. So that itself a big reason why one should move, especially smaller players should move to contract manufacturing. In fact, what small players can also do, like I can understand initially the volumes are very less for a small manufacturer to come and approach a contract manufacturer to back end the process. So what they can do is like prepare a projection, let's say a year, 2 year, 3 year plan, wherein they could set the parameters. Like let's say we are procuring a product at a product X over a period of 1 year, 2 year, 3 year. As a player, I believe my volumes will go up. You can set the parameter like conversion rate. The moment it hits a particular ballpark figure, the conversion rates could come down, by getting the economies of scale. So that's something that all the manufacturer, all the players, big or small, should look at contract manufacturing from this point of time.
Very interesting. I mean, standardization is the way forward, and in fact, I think smaller players should, step out and say that we're getting our food manufactured from a HACCP certified factory, which is way safer than doing it from like run of the mill small kitchens within their own premises.
So in fact, So in fact, we had, HACCP is one of the crucial steps. So that's why we have won and taken a lot of, as a team, there was a collective effort to make it this as an FSSAI certified plant, not only in HACCP certified plant. So now our next aim as a team is collectively is to become BRC certified also. So this pandemic has also taught us it's not only important to have consistency of product, but it's also equally important to do it in the utmost safety, utmost precaution, or in the utmost hygiene conditions that you can make your food.
Thanks, Abhinav, for this. I mean, you guys are actually like the silent heroes of our industry, which usually people do not talk about. And please stay with us. We will have the audience Q&A towards the end of the session.
Sure.
I'll move on to Ashwin in the meanwhile.
Thank you.
Thanks, Abhinav. So, Ashwin, moving on to you. Please tell us a little bit about yourself. The more I read about you, you had such a wonderful journey. You're a serial entrepreneur. I am very intrigued to know, how did you shift to the food industry, and within the food industry, how did you decide to get into food testing and safety, which must have been such a niche, especially when you entered this space, I think back in 2013 or 14?
So first of all, thanks Ankit for having me, and thanks TiE for arranging this. Fantastic speakers ahead. I learned so much about what Abhishek and Abhinav are doing. Fantastic work, guys. We should connect offline. There's a bunch of stuff we can do together, because you guys are doing a lot of path-breaking stuff, right? So kudos to you guys. And Sanket, you're scaling up, and our offline conversation was really riveting, right? So again, we'll connect as well. So a quick background about me, right? So many people know me as a food safety guy. I work a lot with FSSAI. I'm a national advisor to them. But what most people don't know is my background, right? So I'm somebody who is currently writing the laws of the country in food safety, but my background is, I'm a computer science guy from UT Austin. I did my MBA in marketing from Bocconi School of Business. I had job offers in US, but I was the good son. I came back to India to join the family business, which was in water treatment at that time. We ran India's third largest water treatment company. But about a year in, I realized, hey, you know what? This is not my game. This is not something I see myself doing, right? And I wanted to diversify into something else. And that's when I started Equinox Labs. And it started as a water testing lab, thinking, oh, I'll support the water industry, because that's the industry I knew at that time. We started doing water, we started growing in that. The reason we shifted to food and we got really big in food is actually more of a personal story. So one of my friends, a good friend of mine, he runs a tech company. He came to pitch one of his products to Aquatech, and we happened to be in the same building. And I was kind of leaving, Aquatech, and I was still kind of a little bit involved helping them. So I was in the meeting, and I was the tech guy anyways, right? So I was in the meeting, and meeting was wrapping up. I got a call for a client meeting, so I rushed out, and I was getting in my car. I was thinking, you know what, let me drop this guy off. I know he'll be walking out at the same time. Let me drop him off. So I call up the guy. He's not picking up his phone. I call him again. He's not picking up his phone. I said, okay, no worries. I drive out of the office, and I see him on the road. So I pull up my car next to him. I roll down a window. I'm like, hey, buddy, get in. Your office is on the way. I'll drop you off. He's not responding. So I'm honking. He's not responding. And I'm like, okay, something is wrong. And then till then, cars are piling up behind me. You know how Bombay is, right? Everyone's honking. So I go ahead. I pull up my car. I get in front of him. I get out. I come in front of him. I'm like, buddy, just get in. I'll drop you off. And so you take a cab. Just jump in. And he's not responding. Like, he's just looking like this, not in blinking. And I was a little freaked out. But yes, I put him in the car. I called up my then fiance, now wife. She's a doctor. So I called her up and I was like, hey, Priyanka, this is what's happening. What do I do? So she knows this guy very well. Like, we play poker every Friday together, right? So she's like, slap him. I'm like, is that your medical advice? Like, the guy is not responsive, slap him. She's like, he may be just messing around with you, slap him. So I slapped the guy and she's like, did he slap you back? I said, no. She didn't miss a heartbeat. She's like, drive him to the hospital now. Like, just break all signals, take him to the hospital this moment. So I broke all the signals. Luckily, about 5 minutes away, there's a hospital. I got him in there. I got him in the, what is it called? ICU, not ICU. That emergency room. We get him on the stretcher and he starts convulsing. He's getting fits. He's just like vibrating. He has foam coming out of his mouth. And I'm like, what the hell? He was just with me 20 minutes ago having a cup of coffee. And what the hell is this? Right? And then they rush me out. All our friends come over and, we're wondering what happened. 3-4 hours later, they bring him out and he's in a wheelchair. They take him to a room. When the doctor comes and asks me what happened, I told him this is what happened. And the guy was like, you just saved his life. I'm like, from what? Like, he was perfectly fine like 20 minutes before. Like, what the hell was this? So he's like, oh, we did an MRI and we found 3 worms inside his brain. And I had never heard of that. I know worms are in other places in your body, but I had never heard of worms inside your brain, right? So this was, and when I read up a little bit more on it, and doctor also told me, he was like, he probably got them by eating a salad. So a guy who normally drinks and smokes, once in a while eats healthy, and this is what happened to him. And when I read up more on it, it was something as simple as he had a salad which wasn't washed properly, wasn't sanitized properly, and this is what happened to the guy. Right? And when I read up more, I realized how little was being done in the country for this. Right? So before this incident, my mission was making water safer in India. That was my mission. But to that, I added making water, food, and then obviously now air safer in the country. So that's my personal mission, and that's also the mission at Equinox Labs. So that's the reason we got into food safety, and then we started growing in that space. And today we're one of the largest auditing firms in the country. We have about 700 auditors across 150 cities. And we've grown really big in the auditing space. And the reason was this one incident kind of triggered off a snowball effect. So that's just a quick background on why I got into food safety. I know it's a bit of a story, but most people don't forget this one for a while. And yeah.
Damn, I was going to start dieting from tomorrow, but now I'm not going to do it anymore.
No. Just wash your veggies, man. That's all. Wash your veggies, wash your hands, and I think you're good.
Okay, so you are a national advisor for FSSAI. So I just wanted to ask you, so what steps do you think bodies like FSSAI should take to ensure there's a paradigm shift at the middle and the bottom of the pyramid food players in terms of hygiene and safety?
Okay. So I've been a national advisor and national resource person for them for the last 4.5 years. And in that time, there are 2-3 initiatives which have been launched, right? What I'll do is, if you're okay, the second slide, which I'm going to show, has that. So I'll just quickly start a slide and I'll probably pause on that slide and explain. Is that okay? Does that work?
Yeah, sure. No problem.
Give me 1 second. So before I jump there, I'll give you the mandatory who's Equinox in like 10 seconds. 15-year-old company, focus on water and food. We work with around 14,000 customers in the corporate and F&B world and about 40,000 restaurants. We are a FSSAI Notified lab and NABL Accredited lab. Our reports are accepted basically globally. We've trained 50,000 people. We have 250 in-house experts for testing, about 700 auditors, and we have won a bunch of awards, right? I'm not going to bore you with that. What I will spend a little bit time on is this particular piece right here, which you were discussing with me, right? So one of the big changes that was brought in, actually two big changes. First was a concept of hygiene rating of restaurants, right? So before this, a restaurant kitchen was this black box. Nobody knew what was happening with over there. And after the advent of food aggregators, that became even further off, right? I mean, you could now have restaurant food at home. You don't even have to be at the restaurant, right? So that was a big paradigm shift that came in, which was hygiene rating of restaurants. FSSAI launched it. Unfortunately, they didn't make it popular enough, right? Today, hardly 3,000-4,000 restaurants in the country have a hygiene rating. What we did was we went to companies like Zomato, Swiggy, Dine Out, and now a lot of the other national players are coming in. And we wanted to give hygiene and safety a more of a ROI, right? Turn it from an expense into an investment, right? So that's what we did. We tied up, Zomato was the first one to tie up, and we launched the hygiene badge with them. So which was like, if you are a safe restaurant, if you're following these practices, we would come and audit you. And if you are good, you would get a badge, and now this badge would display on your app, and which would help drive more revenue. Last time we studied this and the data was shared by the aggregators, there was a 23% higher booking rate for restaurants with hygiene rating than restaurants without, right? So that was one initiative. The second initiative was the one over here called FOSTAC training, right? So about 4 years ago, this then CEO, Mr. Pawan Agarwal, he called me and said, Ashwin, I have traveled the world, and I've seen in US, there is this safety program, and all over the world, there are these safety training programs which are there. I want to create one in India, right? So I went to work, we created the program, we created the content, and it was about how many people should be trained. So today, the ratio for FOSTAC is for every 25 food handlers, you need one food safety supervisor, right? So many people who know I'm one of the creators of this keep asking me like, hey, what is the scientific reason that it is 1:25? I told them it's negotiation. And they're like, what do you mean negotiation? I was saying for every 50 food handlers, have one person, and he was saying every person should be trained. We agreed to meet in between. And that's why for every 25 food handlers, there is one person needs to be trained. And now this program has trained more than 4 lakh people, 4 lakh food safety supervisors, right? Across, I think, more than 3 lakh food companies across the country, right? So that has been one of the fantastic achievements, which was a big paradigm shift, because before this, no training was mandatory. So making the training mandatory, because see, nobody wants to be a cause of other people falling ill, right? A lot of the food poisoning happens because people are not aware. We've been doing this for a long time. We've trained 50,000 plus people in food safety because we know that is what needs to get done. If you want safer food, you need to train the on-ground staff. You and me knowing about it makes no difference. The guy actually touching your food needs to know about it. So that training piece, I think, was a big game changer. And that those two initiatives, right, have been the paradigm shifts. There are multiple others we've launched. We can talk for, I can speak for an entire day on this. I'm not going to waste more time on this, right? So yeah, that's just what the paradigm shifts have been.
Sure. So since you have your presentation on, I have a question around it, and then I'll anyways leave the floor to you. So most small players do not even bother speaking to a company like yours, even though all of us know about how important a service like yours would be. Problem is people think either it is not affordable, they think that हमें इसकी क्या ज़रूरत है. It's the bigger brands or factories like Abhinav that should kind of meet you. So I'll leave the floor to you to hopefully break such myths.
I'll answer that exact question on my last slide, where I talk about how inexpensive compliance actually is, right? Okay. So a little bit about me, guys. I've already explained the first part. I've also written a couple of books on food safety. I also work with more than 500 companies, helping them with their compliance and policies. Here's a quick gamut of services. I'm not going to waste time explaining this. We do food, we do water, we do environment and training and other services, right? Here are some of the certifications that we launched, especially the one that really took off was this one called Safe Place to Dine, because we are the first company to actually be able to get Zomato, Swiggy, Dine Out to work together, which has not happened in a long time, because we were auditing for them. A lot of restaurateurs came and said, Ashwin, this is not fair. We want to get listed on all 3. We want hygiene on all 3, but we have to do 3 separate audits. And you are making money hand over fist. right? Like your guy who's Equinox is coming and auditing all the 3 times using the same checklist. Like, this is BS. So I said, you know what, this is BS. I created the concept of Safe Place to Dine, which was one of our first certifications. I took it to Zomato, got them to sign off on it, Swiggy, then Dine Out. So if somebody gets a Safe Place to Dine certification, it actually is accepted on all the platforms which are currently doing safety tags. It's accepted on all of them. And any future ones have also, I mean, because again, you will want a ready database of people who already have it, right? Get the ball rolling, right? So this is just a quick summary of services. I'm not going to spend too much time on this. What I want to spend time on, however, is what is mandatory for food companies. So for food manufacturers, especially, right? When I say manufacturers, I mean people who package food. Airtight, if your food becomes airtight, you're a food manufacturer and you're dealing in packaged food. So there is a water test that is required twice in a year that is mandatory by law, right? Many companies do it twice in a year. The good companies also do it monthly because they understand that water quality will affect their product quality, right? A nutrition label, which is your energy, fat, protein, carbs, that is mandatory by law to get that tested from outside and have that on your food product. Shelf life, the best before date, commonly known as, that is mandatory testing by law. And last but not least, the FOSTAC training, which is for every 25 food handlers, you need to have 1 person trained. There is also another part of FOSTAC training, which is recent. And when I say recent, during COVID, is that every food handler needs to attend a 2-hour training on COVID-19, which is also now mandated by law. And the good thing that I was able to do, since I do sit on the chair of the FOSTAC team as well, was we put a cap of 100 rupees. We didn't want to burden people up and, again, because if you leave it open, people will charge 1,000, 2,000 per person and it will get ridiculous. So we actually put a cap of 100 rupees, and at Equinox, we actually do it lesser than that. Right? There are other best practices which are there for food manufacturers, which is at least once in a year, get your products tested for heavy metals, pesticides, to make sure, because you are not adding it, it's somebody who's giving you ingredients. If they are not properly screened, or if for their ingredient has it, will come into your product, right? So it's very critical that at least these be done once in a year. Food testing, which is to check the quality of your food. You did the nutrition label, you did the shelf life, which is based for the law, but checking whether the food produced is safe or not, right? So Abhinav will probably know this. As an FSSAI 20,000 certified, he'll have a program which has to get regular testing done to make sure that the system he's created is still working, right? The last two, but definitely not the least two, is one, the food safety audits. Getting at least a monthly or a quarterly audit done by a third party always helps. Doing a weekly or a monthly audit in-house always helps, right? Because when you start something, you put a system in place. Is that system still continue to work? Is that system still continue to protect your output? Is something that is a very, very important part of any food safety requirement. And label validation comes for, especially for products that have which are packaged. The label which comes on it, the primary label, is that compliant with government regulations or not? That is something which is also best practice to have. You don't want to produce a lakh of rupees worth of labels and then find one thing is missing. Now you're wasting money, you're reprinting cylinders, you're dumping inventory. So it's a very, very expensive mistake to make. So this, by the way, is one of the most common things that we do. Even though it's not mandatory by law, 9 out of 10 manufacturers take this service because it saves them a lot of headache and heartache later on, right? Let me also touch upon restaurants because they are equally a big part of the food industry. Again, the water testing twice in a year, mandatory by law. The COVID-19 training, as I mentioned, the FOSTAC training, these are mandatory by law. Now, I've written nutrition label, which many people find weird. They're like, why do restaurants need to do nutrition label? That's a new thing. Guess what? It is actually a new thing, right? There are 2 changes coming up. One, which has already come, is if you're a restaurant with more than 10 outlets, you need to have a certain portion of your menu calorie counted or have a basic nutrition label in place so your audience, your end consumers, can choose wiser. 2, another extension which is going to come up in another year or 2 is going to be every restaurant will require a certain portion of their menu to have basic nutrition information displayed, right? Now, many people, when they think of this, they're like, I have 50, I have 100 menu items. If I go and test this, it's going to cost me a bomb. I will tell you about the cost in just a second, right? So again, when it comes to best practices, now this was the mandatory practices, right? The best practices is getting water testing done monthly because water quality keeps changing. You're dependent on the municipal water, tanker water, borewell water. That quality keeps changing. It's going to impact your product. Food safety, the food microbial is the food safety testing, getting that done once in a while to make sure that, again, your processes are running okay. swab analysis. Now, this is something most people haven't heard of, right? Somebody like Abhi would know about it, but most restaurants haven't heard of this. They're like, why should we do it? The reason food poisoning happens, right? We did a study about 8 years ago. The reason food poisoning happens is 80% of your foodborne illnesses come post-cooking or post-production in the handling. When people are handling it, that's called cross-contamination, right? So I've cooked everything. I've steamed my rice. I've boiled my rasam and my all Indian cook is deep fried, steamed, boiled. So why does food poisoning happen? Because after all this, somebody is touching that food. A food handler is touching that food, and 80% of foodborne illnesses come from there. So hand hygiene becomes critical, and the one way of monitoring whether people are washing their hands properly and maintaining hygiene is swab analysis, right? And last but not the least is a concept called hygiene quotient or daily monitoring. Now, if you have multiple places you have to monitor, right? So if Abhinav has one factory, it's very easy for him to monitor the one factory. He's sitting right there. Everything is happening in front of him. He can go for a round. He can make sure everything is fine. But as soon as he has two factories or more, now things will start going out of his vision. They'll start going out of his sight. And that's where things start falling down, right? That's where things start breaking. So we created this concept of hygiene quotient because to fix this problem where you can monitor remote sites very, very inexpensively in real time, making sure that things which are supposed to happen, right? And if something hasn't happened, it gives an indicator that this still needs to happen before this time. So whatever needs to happen, when it needs to happen, gets done, right? So most people, when I talk about all this, they always say, Ashwin, all this is great. All this is it sounds very expensive. Equinox sounds very expensive. Whatever you're saying, all this sounds very expensive, right? What I wanted to break that myth was look at the prices on your screen. There's nothing that is crossing 5,000 bucks, right? Water testing, 2,000. Food testing, 2,000. Shelf life, 3,000 bucks, right? Nutrition label, 2,500 bucks. Audits, 4 grand. Hygiene quotient, the daily monitoring, 4 grand. Now, if people can't spend this much amount on safety, maybe you shouldn't be in the food business because the products that you create and the processes that you have, the number of people that you serve is extremely high, right? Whenever I do, I used to do a lot of food safety trainings myself, right? Back in the day. So I used to teach food handlers to wash their hands till here, right? It's called the surgeon's wash. And everyone is to be like, Baki ke log sirf itna, itna hi do, itna kyun do? Why wash for 1 minute? Why not wash for 10 seconds, 20 seconds? Why wash like a doctor? Many people have asked me this question. Like, why are you telling me to wash like a doctor? What I tell them is very simple. A doctor, when he goes into an operation and he does the surgeon's wash, one life is in his hands, right? He's affecting that one life. But as a food handler, as a food professional, your work is affecting lives of hundreds, if not thousands of people, right? So your work and your hygiene needs to be either as good as, if not better, than a doctor going into surgery, because that is how many people you're going to affect if you mess something up, right? So that's just 2 cents on why it's very important that we train the important people. I mean, the on-ground people and monitor them, absolutely critical, right? I would like to leave you with one last thing. People who are interested in knowing about food safety, the changes which are coming up in FSSAI, any new trends which are coming up. We have this free app. It's called Food Talk. There's no registration required. There's nothing required. It's there on Apple Store. It's there on Play Store. You can scan that QR code and you can download it. You get 6 articles every day on news. It's one of our ways of letting people, stay in touch with the new changes which are happening. So that kind of brings me to the end of my presentation. So if you have any questions, thoughts, doubts, happy to answer them.
Sure. So, yeah. So Ashwin, so you obviously spoke about how that food safety badge has increased customer confidence and in the importance of these testing. Do you want to kind of elaborate a little more on especially post this whole pandemic once it subsides? What would the restaurants? I mean, I'm not talking about the manufacturers. I'm sure Abhinav and the likes of Abhinav would have taken care of this. The the smaller restaurants. What do you think the steps they will definitely need to take to increase customer confidence post this pandemic?
Okay. So one is people would want to buy, and by the way, it's not just post starting. I'm seeing that trend already starting now. People will want to buy from places which they are aware are following basic hygiene. I'll give a simple example, right? I want to order Chinese food tonight, right? I have 2 options. I have a 4.1 restaurant over here with no hygiene rating, and it's running a 20% discount. I have another restaurant here, say in 4.1 with hygiene rating, no discount. Where am I ordering food from? Where are you ordering food from? Are you ordering food from here? It's 10% or 20% more, but you know that the hygiene over here is better. Or you're ordering it from here where it's 10-15% lesser, but there is no, you're not sure where the hygiene is being followed up, right? Whenever we've done a poll like this, when we do our webinars, we actually run a poll, you will see 90% plus will order from here for a very simple reason, and it's going to go beyond the pandemic, is because you want to give your family something safer if the option is available, right? So that is going to be one major change that is coming up. Two, when a company starts expanding, right, they start going to multiple outlets and they start growing, you will want to ensure that, hey, the safety norm that I have decided in my boardroom is actually followed across. So that trend of monitoring that is going to be another way. And people who are able to showcase this in a better way, right, will rise on top. I'll give a quick example of the catering world for corporates, right? That's something we deal very closely with. As I said, we work with almost 14,000 companies, corporates and large F&B players. In corporates, any corporate office, the kind of caterer they will choose is less based on price and more based on guarantee of quality, right? So hence the Sodexos and the Compass Groups exist and grow is because they're able to showcase that quality even before they serve you the first meal, right? So building that customer trust that the food that you're going to get from me is going to be safe is going to be one of the fundamental change or shifts that you'll be able to do. And if you're able to do that in a way where you're able to market this, that's going to be the biggest game changer.
And I completely second Ashwin there. Like, you want to get your food, like the hygiene ratings have already started to play a big trend in what you end up ordering. And just to end on what he said, that you have to market that. You have to market it with your end customer relationships. If you are doing certain standards, you want to make like content out of it and push it out there to the people that already love you, are your customers, to keep them going and make that sustainable. Sanket, are you around?
I think he's having some internet difficulty. So till then, let me just pick up a question from the audience.
Sure.
Just give me a second, please. Okay, so in your individual businesses, this is something that might just take a bit of time because it is kind of rooted to all the speaker. How do the speakers help with the customer journey? What is the settlement timeline? I think that's specific. And a very interesting question that has come is, any discounts for the members here?
To answer the second question first, there's a continuous coupon code that we run on our website. It's open for all of us, including the ones that who are on the webinar right now. So it's a 365-day option which is open for all of them. So the whole idea behind this was, to ensure to make a product from the factory and get it delivered next day directly, without having any middlemen in play. That was the whole idea behind this. So there is no store, there is no distributor, there is no touch points. It's directly getting manufactured. Baked to order, not only made to order, but baked to order and then getting delivered very next day at your doorstep. So that was, our key main aim behind this.
Trupti, I'm seeing a question from New Zealand saying, how do you ensure hygiene standards are being followed by restaurants?
Yes.
If you guys don't mind, can I pick that one up? It seems to be in
Please
my
go
bag.
ahead.
Absolutely.
So the way we are ensuring that, so one is obviously the aggregator has to be serious about it, right? So whenever, if this is happening through an aggregator, they need to be serious about it. They need to promote, restaurants which have higher hygiene ratings, which they are doing by creating collections and icons and badges and so on and so forth. But I think the biggest way, if you are a restaurant owner yourself, right, and you have a large chain of restaurants, it could be 2 or more, right? At which point in time it is extremely, you have to first know what the basic rules of FSSAI are. And many people, when they start this journey of safety and hygiene, they always feel like, oh my God, there is so much to do. the surprising part that we've seen, and we do something called as a gap audit, which is basically an exploratory audit. If somebody onboards us as a food safety, consultant, and they want us to improve their food safety, what we used to do is we used to do something called a gap audit. Main idea of a gap audit was, hey, what is the law say? Where do you stand? Most people are already at 80 to 85%. And they used to be shocked when they used to get that. They're like, are you serious? I thought I'll be like 20. Because you're already doing a lot of things right? So I think that is the one big mindset change that you need to bring in, that you're already doing a lot of things. Yeah, there could be few things you're not doing, maybe a few best practices you're not following, some mandatory things you're missing out on, but you're already there. It's not very hard to get to that end goal of having safe food, for going for certifications. You can go for the Safe Place to Dine certifications. You can go for, as you start growing, you can do HACCP, you can do ISO 22000, you can do FSSAI 22000, you can do BRC, and so on and so forth. There are multiple things, especially for manufacturers. In restaurant space, you probably can't do a BRC, doesn't make sense to do it, but you can definitely do an ISO 22000 or more. Main thing is going to be continuous monitoring. These processes are in place, right? I know so many people who take consultancy, they go to consultants, they get all the standards set up, but they are actually not being followed. So then it becomes pointless for going for the effort. So that continuous monitoring, I think, is one of the secrets of success. As the owner of the brand, hold that in high regard. It will happen. If you look at it as a frivolous, only a feather in the cap, we follow it. If you are rigid about it and you look at it on a day-to-day basis, then definitely it will get picked up. And this is exactly where the reason I created Hygiene Quotient as a on a larger scale.
Hey,
I have one more question.
Ashwin, apologies. I had dropped out of the thing. There was some technical glitch.
No.
I don't know. So, Ashwin, in fact, I had
Sanket,
one more
over to you,
question for
please.
you.
Yes.
Yeah, I had one more question for you, a little non-food safety one.
Okay.
You are the only person I've seen in the B2B space who seemed to be topping his PR game. I mean, in the last couple of times I've spoken to you, I've become a fan of your energy and thought process. So, on a lighter note, आपकी सुंदरता के पीछे राज क्या है? If you would want to kind of elaborate on.
Okay, so I think in our last conversation I told you that we do have a secret sauce, right? So let me preface this just a little bit, right? About 10 years ago, Equinox had started growing. We were doing good, and I wanted to get PR. So I did the most natural thing. I went and hired a PR agency. I hired one, I hired a second one, third, fourth, fifth, six PR agencies down, about 10, 12 lakh rupees down. And I got one little mention somewhere, and I was like, okay, this is BS. This is not going to work, right? And that time, one of my friends and now mentor, so her name is Devita Saraf. So she owns a company called VU, right? The TV company. By the way, all the TVs at my home and office are now VU. Because fantastic product, right? But what I loved about her more than the TVs was the way she did PR. She's one of the only few people I knew who had a column in Wall Street Journal. I'm like, how the hell do you get a column in Wall Street Journal? I want a column in Wall Street Journal, right? So I went to her. I went actually with a list of 50 PR agencies. So we did a lot of research, spent like a week, found 50, highlighted the 6 I worked at, and I took it to her. And I said, hey, Devita, I need help. Yeah, who am I? Am I hiring the wrong companies? Is it too low end? Like, am I talking to the wrong people? So she looked at the list, like 2 pages. Then she looked at it and she tore it and she threw it in the dustbin. I'm like, that's just messed up, and that's not cool. What the hell was that about? So she's like, Ashwin, this is bullshit. Don't hire any PR agency. I'm going to tell you the secret sauce of how do you do PR. I said, okay, tell me the secret sauce. So she said, what do you want to be known for? I said, food safety, hygiene, all this stuff. So she's like, go read which article or which medium you want to be published in. It could be TOI, DNA, online, offline, wherever that you want to be published. Read that and see who's writing in that space. Make a note of the reporters who are writing in that space. Go online, find their emails, find their phone numbers, reach out to them. And she's like, every week, write something, like write an article, write something and send it to that person one-on-one saying, hey, here are my thoughts on what's happening in the industry. Or here's a new trend which I see coming up. Right? Just send it to them. Just keep sending it to them. So I said, okay, I did the first week. I found 10 names. I wrote 4 different articles myself. And I sent it to these 10 people saying, hey, here are a few thoughts. Nothing happened. Next week, I found 25 names. I wrote 2 articles, a little bigger articles, and I sent it. Nothing happened. I was like, okay, this is getting too much. Third week, same thing. I had about 30, 35 names by then. Nothing happened. And I was on the verge of giving up. I'm like, okay, this is just BS advice. It's not working. Fourth, I'm like, it's the last 1 week I'm going to try, right? This is because it's painful, right? Writing one-on-one 40 emails is a pain in the ass. And I did that the 4th week, and one guy picked up one of the articles and he published it. I was like, okay, this is interesting. And then I continued that process to a point where it was replicable. It was, we can, do that on command. Like we can, like tomorrow I want to be published. I know exactly what to do. I know who to write to. I know what we need to write. And we turned that art into a science, right? So today I have a team, right, led by an extremely talented individual, and she handles all my PR, where she knows what are the trends are. They will already write articles. They will show me our team of copywriters. They will make articles ready. They'll show me. I'll give them a couple of inputs. They go back, change it. They want some ideas for next week. I give them ideas. I give them a couple of thoughts. But I've turned that into a machine where we literally, on a day-to-day basis, we are getting published somewhere, either online, offline, interviews, whatever. But that one main idea that Devita taught me was, they're like, reporters are always looking for good content, right? So if you are able to give that content to them on a platter, they will take it up. So there are times we write the whole article, not just a snippet. I write a whole article, full research done, and we give it to a reporter saying, you can put your name on exclusively for you. You can put your name on it and publish it, and they do, right? So that one little piece of advice literally changed the game. And I realized, okay, I was getting published in small, things here and there, comments here and there, online blogs. But the real game changer for me was when I got a column in Economic Times. I was one of the youngest people to have a column in Economic Times. And that day I sent a nice big basket, the champagne and all to Devita as a thank you. And the main business advantage. So many people think PR is bullshit. It's more for vanity. I will prove you wrong. Based on that one column in Economic Times, we were able to close over 1 crore rupees worth of revenue, right? And it was fantastic the way it played out. And there's a funny story behind how it played out. I'm in a meeting at Stanchart with their head, and that guy's telling me something. No, we need to do this and we need to do that. And I'm like, yeah, but I'm telling you, this is what you need to do. He's like, no, I read about this somewhere. And he's like, being very emphatic. I'm like, what did you read? And he pulls up that article on screen, and then everybody freezes because my Economic Times article with my face on it. And then they're like, okay, let's listen to what the hell this guy has to say, right? So that literally changed how we did business with Stanchart after that, right? And that was obviously a very, very rewarding experience. Yeah, so that was the little secret sauce behind PR.
That was terrific, man. You as good as leaked out the recipe of Coca-Cola. I mean, it's terrific that you actually mentioned how you've upped your PR game.
So my PR team, if they're on call, they're going to be like, that's a secret sauce. Why the hell are you giving it to everybody? So by the way, idea is as much as the execution, right? So if you're not able to execute ideas as we discussed, they're a dime a dozen. It's how you execute them. Do you have the strength to actually execute the idea? And if you're able to do it time and again, even if you see failure, but if you believe in the beauty of your thoughts and if you persevere, you will see success.
Absolutely. So guys, I think this was such a wonderful session. It was terrific to have you guys here. Hopefully the foodpreneurs will go back with a lot more clarity on certain aspects of this. I'm sure there are a few questions that are pending from the audience. We will shoot the questions out to the relevant speakers, also along with the list of audiences that have attended, so for you guys to get in touch with them later. To the fraternity, the food and hospitality industry anyways teaches us to stay tough. We are the ones who inspired the phrase, if life gives you lemons, ask for tequila. वैसे home delivery चालू है, तो चाहिए तो.
Sanket, you're on mute. Sanket?
I think Sanket has stepped offline.
Okay.
Yeah. Can you
so
Back.
I was just about to say we do not speak about alcohol here.
He is. So let's all weather the storm together. And in case anyone wants to reach out to us for any issues you guys are facing, be it validating your idea, troubleshooting, mentoring, or funding connects, I'll leave the floor to Trupti and she'll tell you all how to get in touch with us. Adios and cheers from my side. And thank you so much, Ashwin, Abhinav, and Abhishek, for your time and for your advice.
And thank you, Sanket and TiE, for organizing this. Appreciate it. And thanks, Ashwin and Abhinav, for joining in.
Sanket, you're doing by the fantastic job. I'm very glad that TiE has actually formed, a smaller focused team around food. And if there's anything I can do to support, as I mentioned to you on the call earlier, also anything I can do to support, you have my contact information. And anyone wants to reach out to me, my contact info is quite clear. It's ashwin@equinoxlab.com, or look me up on LinkedIn. I'm like hyperactive on LinkedIn. Happy to help in any way I can.
Sure. Thank you so much, Ashwin, Abhinav, and Abhishek. I've already got 3-4 requests of your email IDs. So post the session, we will be sharing your email ID over to the participants so they can get in touch with you directly.
Perfect.
So Ashwin, just to update, the TiE Food Network has been active since last year. So apart from the 325th webinars that we have done, this was probably the 16th or the 17th one, which is specifically for the food.
I know. I complained to Sanket that I wasn't getting those emails. So he said he'll add me back to the list. So for some reason I fell off the list. Please add me back. I would love to, hear more about this, and whatever any way I can support, I'll be happy to do.
Sure. Thank you so much, guys. And it was wonderful to have you guys over here. Just spare us a day. We will have this link uploaded, and would really appreciate if you could also share it in your network.
Thank you, Shruti. Thank you, Sangeet.
Thanks,
Thank you.
everyone.
Thank you,
Thank you so
guys.
much.
See you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.
Stay safe. Bye, guys.
Bye.